Governance and institutional development expert Dr. Waleed Madibo is keeping a close eye on developments in Sudan and joins us now via Zoom. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
What do you make of what the coup leader is saying about he felt that they had to step in to avoid the country going into a civil war? Were things that bad, or is that just a ploy?
Things were very bad because, I mean, the civilian government, if you look at its record, it lacked the vision needed to carry Sudan along a good developmental path. It was very much dependent on the template of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, and the civilian leadership lacked, as a matter of fact, the viciousness needed to dismantle the racist, Islamist, and centrist state. However, that should not have been used as a justification to make a coup d'etat, because by doing so, the military junta imperiled essential debt relief and international aid. It has endangered Sudan's international standing as a nascent democracy, and it jeopardized, most importantly here, it jeopardized peace with rebels in Darfur and Nuba Mountains, knowingly that until now no deal was reached with SLM and headed by Abdel Wahid Mohammed Noor, and SPLM headed by Abdelaziz al-Hilo. So he took unnecessary risk. Whatever shortcomings that were happening, he has been part of it. He had full control of the finance file, the economic file, the peace agreements, the security, and the judicial system was under the discretion of the Sovereign Council, of which Al-Burhan, the current president of Sudan, is part of. So I understand that there was a need for some change, but change didn't mean a coup d'etat.
So does that mean that General Burhan has perhaps, in trying to, as he says, avert a civil war, has increased its likelihood, given all these peace initiatives that have been there that are now threatened?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we were to critique the tactic attempted by Al-Burhan, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, no one would have imagined that he would take such a drastic methodology, one in which he used the RSF, the Rapid Security Forces, to secure the coup d'etat and to ensure that some sensitive military locations were protected. So this is, in my opinion, this is done against the will of the military officers. Here I am speaking about mid-level and low-level rank and file officers. I'm not talking about the top officials who are in total agreement with Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, because they do have some financial interest in common. Now, if should the coup d'etat fail due to external and internal pressures, I would say bloody confrontation is likely to occur between the army, the official Sudanese army, and the militia leaders who are now taking power in the name of the army, but in actuality, this is not this is not the will of the Sudanese military. Now, if that happens, God forbid, we're going to have an open confrontation. And now the Sudanese people are adopting a peaceful strategy here, but they will be faced with militias that are not trained to handle urban protesters. And if unnecessary force were to be used against the protesters, casualties are likely to occur, and that will inevitably cause divisions within the army, and it would urge, Sudan military officers to take a stand against these militia leaders that are led by Abdel Fattah Burhan.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the immediate consequences of this coup. Let's start with the political ones. The African Union has suspended Sudan from its bloc. Does the general care? I mean, this is it a slap on the wrist in real terms to be suspended from the African Union if no other action is taken by the bloc?
I think this is a very serious move, because if you were to combine that with the response of the international community at large, and the Europeans, the Americans, the French, I think it may not have direct material effects, but it's going to have some, immaterial effects that will affect, there will be negative consequences on the ability of the Sudanese government to engage in regional and international arena, something that we have suffered from at the time of Omar al-Bashir, who ruled the country for 30 years. And the country suffered from economic sanctions, and it suffered from isolation in the regional and the international community. Now, if we were to investigate the landscape, if you look at Sudan, Sudan is surrounded by a group of autocrats. If you look at Eritrea, you look at Chad, Central African Republic, it's only Ethiopia who denounced the coup d'etat and urge people to go back to the constitutional document. To the extent that they have a distaste for democracy, I think they very much fear the recurrence, the coming back of the Islamists who were ruling the country for the last 30 years. So, and those were individuals who exported terrorism not only to some neighboring African countries, but also to the international community at large. So even if they don't feel it immediately, they are likely to feel the impact of the African Union decision in the very near future.
And the other sanctions are more material, aren't they, in terms of cutting off aid, World Bank also withdrawing its support in the interim. This will exacerbate an already difficult economic situation for ordinary citizens. And I guess when you've got angry citizens who are angry about the coup, and then further complicated by worsening economic conditions, it becomes untenable for the coup leaders to stay in power, I would imagine.
It's even more, you're absolutely right, but it's even more difficult for the Sudanese people themselves. Unless this civil disobedience is very well orchestrated, my fear is that the Sudanese people won't be able to sustain the civil disobedience for long. I mean, something has to happen. I mean, normally it takes a week to 2 weeks, and then change would happen. But if it goes beyond 2 weeks, then the Sudanese people are likely to go into starvation. I mean, and I think this is the tactic of the regime, and it has been doing it for the last month as it orchestrated some security problems and created some economic difficulties, primarily in the eastern part of the country, where some tribal leaders influenced the blockage of Sudan, of Port Sudan, and for almost like 3 to 4 weeks, the Sudanese people couldn't have access to medicine or food. So I think the military officers are very much dependent in their tactic in starving the Sudanese people. Now I think that if the civil disobedience is very well arranged, is very well coordinated, I think we are likely to see regime change within a period of 3 to 4 weeks. But I think more important than going into some confrontational strategy is for us to be able to decompose the speech of the Sudanese president, a speech in which he has done away with some articles in the constitutional documents, mainly Articles 11, 12, 15, 16, 24, 71, and 72. But most important articles are the ones that had to do with dismantling the Islamist state and combating corruption. He has done away with that article. He has done away with the article that was supposed to influence the investigation of the crime committed against the protesters in the sit-in in June 2019. So I think rather than pushing the officers to the corner, we must get engaged in some political brokerage, one that would allow these officers a leeway. And by so doing, I think it may be difficult now, but it could have been done before. Impunity could have been provided to these officers, and if Burhan wanted to continue until the end, continue as a president of the Sovereign Council until the end of the transitional period, he could have been granted that in exchange of the civilians reobtaining or the files that were already taken or were already hijacked by the military officers. That was not done because the officers were dealing with a group of political amateurs. They were not dealing with professionals who could have gotten engaged in some serious dialogue that would have allowed Sudan to get out of this quagmire without any confrontational tactic.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts and your insights with us today, Dr. Waleed Madibo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you to you.